Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our fourth in a series of webinars from District 58 Toastmasters. Tonight's guest is Dr. Heather Collins. She's a cognitive neuroscientist, cognitive psychologist, and biostatistician. I had to practice those words. It's on everyday life in the public.
Everybody.
She has a fascination of how humans interact with their environment and how individual differences in memory and the brain can occur. And this led Dr. Collins to pursue a BS in psychology from the University of Washington, followed by a PhD in psychology and brain sciences at the University of California, Santa Barbara. She has given a successful TED Talk. Her TED Talk, Successful Thinking, It's a No-Brainer, has over 14,000 views. So she knows what she's talking about. So here with her talk on TEDx Made Simple is Dr. Heather Collins. Go ahead.
Good evening, everybody. So today I'm going to share with you my experience about TEDx and what that is like. This is like for giving a TEDx talk. Maybe you want to give one. Maybe you're not sure if you'd like to give one. Maybe you think you might be interested, but you just don't know where to start. All of those questions today. As Bob said in my introduction, I was fortunate enough to be selected for a TEDx Charleston talk in 2014. And that talk was near to my topic I love dearly, thinking and the brain. And the title of it is Successful Thinking, It's a No-Brainer. And you can see a little clip talk to the left, the address there. There are many TEDx venues around the country. And this was just, you might have a few questions. Maybe you've seen a TED Talk before, maybe you haven't. Maybe you've heard about these TED Talks, but you've never really seen one. Well, all you have to do is type into Google TED Talk, and you will find the TED website that tells you all about TED. Just to share with you a little bit about what TED is. It stands for Technology, Entertainment, and Design, but the talks are not limited to those realms. There are talks on science, education, society, geography, geology, the brain, ecology, the environment, human relations, and many more topics that are of global as well as local interests. TED first began in 1984, so we're celebrating over 30 years of the TED organization, and they started holding their first annual conference in 1990. That conference grew. They expanded into not just a TED conference annually, but a TED conference annually, expanded into TED Ed, which are educationally based conferences and talks, and even some more specialized localized conferences. TEDx started popping up after a few years. It's important to know that TED is a massive organization. It's an incredibly important organization when it comes to sharing ideas and communicating thoughts of interest to a variety of people from different backgrounds, different populations, different locations. Once you have a TED Talk, that's reached around the world. And TED is a non-profit organization, so nobody's making money off of these talks. The organization exists solely to share ideas worth spreading. If you look at TED proper, that is, as I would call it, Big TED, not TEDx or anything like that, just TED proper, there are over 2,000 talks, and all of those talks are less than 18 minutes in duration. It's really important to note that. If you want to give a 2-hour-long lecture or 2-hour discussion on the history of World War II, that might be really fascinating to a lot of people, but TED is not the appropriate venue for that. So while TED is not limited to the topics that are of interest to this organization, it is limited in time. The idea is that these talks are supposed to be brief, supposed to be punchy, and supposed to be impactful. And while all talks are less than 18 minutes or fewer than 18 minutes in duration, not all of them are 18 minutes. Some talks are 6 minutes long. Some talks are 12 minutes long. Some talks are 14 minutes long. There's really quite a range. There's one talk that literally changed my life on how to properly tie your shoes so that your knot doesn't come undone. And that clocked in right around 3 hours, 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It's very, very brief, under 4 minutes. So not all of these talks take 16 minutes. It's also important to note that TED Talks are by invitation only. That means you can apply and you may or may not be selected. They determine who's selected based on several criteria, including your idea, your expertise for speaking to this idea, the theme of the conference, the location of the conference, the overall program and how they're putting it together and who they want to be able to complement one another as far as talks go. So there are many factors that go into being invited to present TED. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, my talk was at TEDx Charleston. So TEDx is one of hundreds. And each blue dot indicates a TEDx conference. So light blue indicates past conferences, dark blue indicates conferences that are coming up for this year. And so this map is on the TED website, and it constantly updates itself based on the date. TEDx talks are presented in over 100 languages and are incredibly widespread. Unlike Big TED, which is very global, very international in nature, TEDx is scaled down a bit to a more local community-based level. TEDx conferences are bound up with one community might be interested in a scheme of talks that are slightly different than a and that's okay. Each community can have its own TEDx conference to present ideas that that community believes are important or interesting or are worth sharing with the community. TEDx talks are independently organized, and that's a really important point. They're licensed by Big TED. That is, they have to apply to start a TEDx conference. You can't just pop one up out of the woodwork. So it is quite a process for a community to be able to apply, get a license from TED, and begin hosting their own TEDx conference. The purpose of TED, the theme of TED, every TED is ideas worth spreading. That's the general overarching theme of any TED conference, whether it's TED Global or a local TEDx conference somewhere. Now within that, a local TEDx conference is going to have a very specific theme to that conference. The one I spoke at has a logo here, and that's specifically TEDx Charleston, and in 2014 theme was Ripple Effect. So your idea that you wanted to share in your talk needed to be linked somehow to a ripple effect. Now, how you make that link is up to you, and you can certainly be very creative about it. But the idea is that there is a general theme that will connect, at least loosely, seemingly disparate concepts presented in talks. And that's one of the things that makes a TED conference so enjoyable. You might have talks that are very different back to back. You might have one talk about biology and microbiology, and then another talk after that based on preschool education and how we should change that. So you want to give a TED Talk. Let's talk about a few questions. Why do you want to give a TED Talk? If it's because you want to live on or get 15 minutes of fame or develop a legacy, just go find another place to give that talk. That's not the purpose of TED. They really want people to not give a talk for the sake of a person's own ego, but really to give a talk because you do have an idea worth spreading. You have something you want to share with the community. Something that you think will make the community a better place to be or a better place to live. For me, my talk, Successful Thinking is a No-Brainer, was about the idea that everybody can become a successful thinker. I encountered a lot of issues as a college professor with students who just believed they couldn't think critically, that it was something that they didn't magically have. And I wanted to design a talk to reach them as well as the general public to show them that anybody can think well and think successfully. And anybody can use successful thinking to achieve goals. And in addition to that, thinking successfully is actually good for you and benefits your brain. That was my goal. I wanted to share that idea with my community. So how do you give a TED Talk? TEDx Talks are typically held on an annual basis, although it does depend on the TEDx organization that you're looking at. So it could be that one organization hosts them every other year instead of every year. But typically, they're held annually. So you Google TEDx, you find your local organization, find the TEDx conference that is closest to you, and they'll typically have a date on there when the conference is, and when the application process is approaching, they'll let you know. Many of the TEDx sites actually allow you to sign up to receive emails from them, so you can easily find out when applications are open because they'll just email you. You could go on Facebook and like them and find out more information that way. Most of them do have Facebook profiles. Twitter, other social media aspects are quite omnipresent with TEDx, just like TED. So you find the application, and then you submit the application. Like a lot of applications, they want your name, and they want your email address, and they want to know a little bit about who you are. But they also want to know about your idea. And that gets us to the next topic. What? What are you going to talk about? You need to find something that you're passionate about, something that really ignites fire in you, something that you're willing to pursue and pursue for months on end, something that you're willing to have dogged perseverance with, something that you really are just, I said passionate before, but that's it. You just have to find something you're passionate about. If you have lukewarm feelings about something, don't propose it. If you kind of think you might be interested in something, this is not the time to learn something new. This is the time to share something that you are passionate about and that you're an expert about as well. So in selecting TEDx presenters or speakers, they do want to see that you are an expert to some degree in what you're talking about. My talk was about thinking in the brain, and those are areas of cognitive psychology and cognitive neuroscience. And I hold my PhD in cognitive neuroscience and cognitive psychology, and I'm a professor and teach those subjects. So I was able to establish my expertise in that domain that I was talking about through my credentials and through my professional experience. Find something that's related to your expertise that you can use to show that you're an expert about something, and use that to lift up your idea to share with everybody. So you apply, and actually this says, congratulations, you've been invited. Well, let's back up half a step. Let's say you submitted your application. It's similar to an audition in that it's not necessarily just a quick phone call that says congratulations. It is a process with respect to applying and then finding out that you've been invited to give a TEDx talk. Individuals in a committee with that organization will review, a speaker selection committee will review your application. They'll likely then give you a phone call and you'll have a phone interview. And if you make it past that round, you'll then be invited typically for a face-to-face interview with 1, 2, 3, or 4 individuals on the speaker selection committee. After you pass that, you might find out that you did make it or did not make it. So let's say you made it, because that's more fun. Congratulations, you've been invited to speak at TEDx. This is wonderful news. Now the hard work begins. How do I prepare for a TEDx talk? Well, you want to think about what the most important take-home point is that you want your audience to remember, and build your talk from there. Think about the important points. Build an outline. So you're all Toastmasters, so you're used to doing this anyway. You've got a leg up on people who aren't used to giving speeches. And you've got a leg up on people who aren't used to giving brief speeches and brief talks. We give talks that are 5 to 7 minutes all the time. So a 10-minute talk, no problem. We can do that. You begin by formulating an idea. Then you'll meet and talk with several individuals from the TEDx Speaker Selection Committee about your idea. And they're experts at what TED and what TEDx are looking for in talks. And they'll help you formulate your idea and really shift it a little bit, edit it a little bit, and figure out which bells and whistles are going to benefit you most so that your talk is well received and you can have the best experience possible. You're then assigned a speaker coach, and this is a fantastic component of TEDx. I don't know if every TEDx organization has speakers coaches, but most of them do. And this is an individual who will meet with you and go over your ideas and then help you actually formulate your talk and then help you practice it. Now, when I say help you formulate your talk, this person will help you not just with your ideas, those are your ideas, but they're going to help you figure out how to present those ideas in the most effective way possible. Really wonderful, beneficial experience, but it is hard work. And it means that you need to be open to feedback. These people are here to help you. You want to take their suggestions, you want to really internalize those, and you want to work on editing your talk as needed for their suggestions. They know the audience. They know what it's going to take when you're up there in front of the camera for you to have really positive experience. Do I have to use PowerPoint? I hate PowerPoint. No, you don't have to use PowerPoint. And if anything, TED believes that presentations should be simple. So you can use PowerPoint, or some people may just have one or two images. But if you do choose to use PowerPoint, keep it simple, and it should not be text heavy. You should be providing the words, that is you speaking. Don't rely on the PowerPoint for that. You want to use the PowerPoint to emphasize a word here or there if it's important, and to add images that will add an additional quality to what you're talking with the audience about. So no, you don't have to, but if you do use PowerPoint, use it sparingly. So what are the general guidelines? What else is going on? Well, the entire process is about 6 months long, from to apply, interviews, through the acceptance and group information sessions, and then meeting with your speaking coach. When you meet with your speaking coach, you might meet once a week, you might meet twice a week. They have guidelines about how frequently they'd like you to meet. There are also general rehearsal sessions in which you and one or two other individuals, or maybe everybody who's presenting at TEDx this year, will get together and practice. Certainly there's a dress rehearsal and a complete run-through before the big event. And in addition to practicing with your speaking coach, practicing in front of other TEDx speakers and other speaker coaches, you really do have to do the hard work at home. This means evenings. This means weekends. This means you are going to practice, 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 rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. So what happens on the big day? On the big day, you get to experience one of the most wonderful events probably in your entire lifetime. My event was at a theater in town. There were about 600 people in the audience, and it was a wonderful event. I went up there on stage. I spoke to all 600 people, and the challenging part of that is that you're being videotaped, but the audience is black. So if you're used to speaking with very small kind of intimate venues or limited numbers of people in an audience, and you rely on that visual cue, that visual feedback from your audience, you're not going to get that at this because the audience is completely dark. It's just a black abyss because all you see are the bright lights shining at you because they're recording you. Afterward, there is a reception. If you speak early in the day, you get to enjoy everyone else's talks very quietly from the back of the room or from the balcony. So you do get to appreciate what your colleagues in your TEDx organization are speaking on as well. And then afterward, you all celebrate with a reception. And the reception is a really nice time to interface with your audience, to be able to talk with them, to find out what they liked about your talk and what spoke to them. And it's also a wonderful way to be able to celebrate this fantastic accomplishment that you've achieved. So it's a good time to pat yourself on the back, really enjoy a good time with other people, socialize, and enjoy the camaraderie that you have also with other people talking at your TEDx event. the aftermath, as I like to call it. So the night of your reception, you're going to have a wonderful time, and then you're going to go home, and if you're like me, you're going to go to sleep in for a very long time. You're going to sleep in the next day, and you'll wake up thinking, wow, did that really happen? Did I really just give a TEDx talk? Yes, I did. And it's going to be fantastic. Approximately 4 to 8 weeks after your event, your video will come up on YouTube. And this is an example of what it looks like. This is my video. As of today, you can see I have 15,096 views. And this is a little what it looks like, just like a traditional YouTube video of any kind. And you can share this video with friends, with family, with colleagues. So even though your TEDx talk might be brief, it might be 10 or less minutes long, your YouTube video will live on forever, or at least as long as YouTube is around. The great thing about that is that you can use it to continue that dialogue with your audience, whether it's your virtual audience or real life audience. You can use it to continue to share your message and continue to share your idea worth spreading. It's a wonderful thing to have. My TEDx experience was absolutely wonderful. It was everything I wanted it to be, and it was a fantastic experience. I want to caution that each person has a unique experience, and my experience might not be like yours. I want to make sure that you understand that because there's a YouTube video, you shouldn't have the expectation that giving a TEDx talk means that you're going to become famous overnight. I spoke with one TEDx speaker who was really disappointed after she didn't get an invitation to be on some national talk show after her TEDx talk was on YouTube because it didn't go viral. If it does go viral, that would be absolutely wonderful, but don't expect it. So I would say have modest expectations, but make yourself appreciate everything this experience is worth. It will likely be a life-changing event, and a life-changing event doesn't mean fame and fortune overnight. It means that it might change the way you see your topic that you talked about. It might open you up to new experiences and new ideas. It could open you up to meeting people you wouldn't have met before, to hearing ideas from other people that you might not have heard before. So I would say one of the most wonderful results of completing TEDx, it's not just a great accomplishment, it was that it opened a door for me to experience new things. And I think that's an amazing experience to have. If you do apply for TEDx and you do not get in, please do not be dismayed. Depending on the TEDx locale, they could get anywhere from 300 to 600 to 900 applications a year. And that could be 300, 600, 900 applications for 7 speaking spots or 10 speaking spots. So the odds are not in your favor, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep trying. If you're passionate about an idea and you believe it's an idea, you should persist and keep applying. And with that, I am open for questions.
Great, thank you, Heather. Hey, everybody's phone is muted right now. Give me 1 second. There, everybody should be unmuted now. If you have any questions, then speak up and ask Heather.
Hello.
Heather, hi. This is Mike Wright from Sumter, South Carolina, the Shaw Afterburners Club. First, thank you for this talk, by the way. I was really excited to hear this and hear about your experience. You mentioned a speaking coach, and I wanted to ask about how you went about finding a speaking coach. And is that what you called it? I understood it was a coach, but what do you actually call it?
Yeah, it's a speaking coach, and that's a great question, Mike, so thank you for that. Basically, there are speaking coaches that volunteer to work with each TEDx organization, and typically they'll assign you a speaking coach. And it might be that one speaking coach is assigned to 2 or 3 different speakers depending on the organization. So the nice thing is that the burden is not on you to go out and find a speaking coach. The TEDx organization will have contacts and will provide one for you.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Any other questions for Heather? Well, Heather, I think they're going to give you an easy night tonight.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening.
Is that Heather?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Janice calling from Greenville, South Carolina. I'm just wondering, are you available to, if we can reach out to you and if we have questions afterwards? It's like, this is all kind of new to me, so I'm very excited about, somebody recommended that I should go for it. So I would love to be able to have a conversation or ask some more questions, but not knowing what those questions would be right now. I didn't realize we'd have the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk with you. You know, if you'll be at the state conference, which is in Greenville, I'll be there, so that might be a good time for us to meet up and talk.
Okay.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, Heather will be giving an expanded version of this same talk at our spring conference in Greenville on April 22nd. The conference is actually the 21st all the way through the 23rd, Friday through Saturday. Heather will be speaking, I believe, on the 22nd. And that is in Greenville, so that should be convenient for you, Janice.
That's perfect.
Anybody else have a question?
I have a question.
Hey, Heather, do TED Talks have different speaker themes, like it's Shake It Up here in Charleston this year? Is there another location that might have a different speaker theme?
In order to find other locations, you really do need to go on the TED website and look for TEDx, and they have that map that I put up, and if you can actually zoom in on that map and find out geographically which locations are within reasonable distance from you, and it'll have links to their sites, and you can find out what their themes are. And I will say, too, that if you really believe you have something you want to talk about, don't let a theme stop you from applying, because it just has to be loosely related to the theme, you know. And the themes, at least for Charleston, are definitely pretty broad. So, for example, for Shake It Up or Full Effect, those are pretty broad, and you can make a lot of topics at least loosely related to those themes. So don't let a theme stop you from applying.
I think somebody else had another question.
Another question?
All right, we're going to turn Heather loose here.
All right.
Going once. Going twice. All right, Heather, thank you so much for this presentation. It was excellent. I really appreciate it, and I
appreciate it.
I look forward to seeing you at the conference in a couple of weeks.
Yes, I will see you all in Greenville.
And with that, we will conclude this evening's webinar. Thank you, everybody, for attending.
Thanks, Bob. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.